Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, and alongside me tonight from the great Midwest, almost near the Canadian border, which is integral to the movie tonight. Here I have RDV with me. Say hello, RDV.
Hello, RDV.
They're very good, RDV. I'm glad that you were able to, just like Liam Neeson, take the script and not ad lib with it because tonight's movie is The Ice Road starring Liam Neeson. We're on a little bit of a Liam Neeson kick, so we wanted to do a couple of his movies here before branching off to something else. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, are starting to pile in the chat here, Ed and a few others. This movie for myself, I remember watching a little while ago when it actually got released on Netflix going, wow, Liam's got a bunch of crap out here that I didn't really know about because there's The Commuter, there's this film, there's unfortunately the
Mm-hmm.
movie we talked about the other night whose name shall not be mentioned. And to me, I went, wow, this movie's a hell of a lot better than the last one we just reviewed in retrospect too. But
It's
what's
different
interesting
when you
about
change the.
RDB is that you mentioned to me that this movie looked like a movie from the 80s or 90s. And
Yeah.
when I was tweeting it out earlier today, several of the views have kind of said the exact same thing, and I think that's a pretty legitimate point. Your thoughts?
Yeah. It's literally. I mean, I grew up watching the Dolph Lundgren straight to DVD movies. Same with I don't know if Seagal had but I know she.
Oh
Jean
yeah,
Claude. I didn't really watch a lot of Seagal stuff, but Jean Claude. I was gonna say Jean Claude Van Damme, JCVD had some straight to DVD movies as well. Well, not really, but they kind of felt that way. But Dolph Lundgren he was always the king of like straight to DVD movies. So going into Dolph Lundgren's, I knew what I was getting, and this kind of felt like it because it wasn't over the top, but it was just enough for the story plot. And what really made it feel like an 80s, early 90s straight to DVD, more like, is the bad guy. He keeps coming back.
he does.
I
He
was I
does.
was laughing my ass off. It was so great. I was like, this is awesome. He just won't die.
One of the
I
things
was,
we've talked about with 80s movies, especially like say Stallone, and I'm thinking of Over the Top here, is that actors when they get matched up to a particular type of theme or an idea, really that's what you associate them with, and that's what you kind of want more of. You just want a variation on a theme. So when we talk about Liam Neeson, of course he's done a lot of great things. Darkman's tremendous, Excalibur, many other things too. But we go immediately to Taken because it was just awesome. It was incredible, and it certainly deserves a ranking up there, one of the better action movies in the past 10, 20 years. And so when the Taken franchise, even though they continue to get worse, much like Transport and others, the Bourne ones especially. But to me, I looked at it and was like, they've got something here released and taken on a plane, taken on a train, taking a little girl out for an ice cream. I
I
mean,
need the boat taken.
yeah, but yeah, exactly. And it needs to be like small town sheriff taken. But to me, this one, what it does, it's less Taken, but it's more of an 80s in that you go, oh, this movie's got Liam Neeson in it, but it's about trucks. Because you and I have talked about trucks. We've done some trucker movies. We've not gone over the entire CB trucker movie craze from the 70s. We have noted on it in several of our Chuck Norris streams and other stuff from the 70s and
Mm-hmm.
80s we've done here on the Extreme Movie Show. But to me, I was kind of excited on a primal level as a man to go, hey, here's a bunch of people. They're individual spirits, of course, independent contractors. So what they do, they take very seriously, which I always like that in a film when somebody takes whatever their craft is seriously, even if they're not good at it. They're driving these big ass shiny rigs, and it's pretty cool. It's not so fantastical that it's like Mad Max or anything, which I like
No.
for other reasons. But this one is just a slice in ordinary life that we don't necessarily get a window on, even though it,
Although,
you know,
although this kind of was more like the Road Warrior in a sense with the fights on the big rig while they're driving.
yeah,
I got the same kind of sense like that as the Road Warrior, like with Mel Gibson. And I gotta say that yeah, this is totally different from Taken. Like this isn't a guy with a set of skills. This is a guy who's just trying to take care of his brother who has severe cognitive problems from serving in I think it was Iraq. You said or Iran, whatever. Either
doesn't
way,
matter.
doesn't make a difference, But he's not a military guy background in this movie. He's just a normal guy, and it makes it more believable because the guy who's the bad guy is trying to fight him, and he's got these other guys while they're driving. It was kind of cool to see. I mean, if you think about it, the whole movie was not really Rob. Sorry, I was gonna say because your name's Rob Neeson. I was gonna say Liam Neeson is not really the main star. It's his brother
No,
Gert. It's his brother's Gertie,
yeah,
and I love the fact that despite this guy having problems saying things, he's still got all his military instinct training. when
Yeah.
it comes to fighting. He puts it out, but it's not over the top though. It's not like 80s like he just like does all these fancy moves and stuff and he's done. No, he actually, it makes him look like he's struggling like you normally would in real life. No.
So, one of my poker buddies at my game that I go to invited a friend of his who was from out of town that he knew way back in the day. The guy came over and he was an older gentleman. He was polite. He was kind of quiet and all that. Super nice. Turns out he spent a lot of time in Canada. So, we're talking stuff or whatever, and I bring up this subject, and this is before the movie came out. And I said, tell me about the show I think everybody in Canada's got a hard on for, and that's Ice Road Truckers. And he stopped, and I remember he was looking over his cards at me, and he put his cards down, and he looked at me, and he goes, we love that show. And it's one of those little slices of life where
Yeah.
when you see all these things on the Outdoor Channel or the Hunting Network or whatever, I'm a Survivor man aficionado. I love all those shows, how to go out in the wild and survive. I can't, I just watch all of them. I'm marked for them. So much in the same way people are marked for these kind of driving shows, because again, there are chunks of our life that really rely on them, but we don't think about in our day-to-day, transactions of life. We stop at this grocery store on the way home from work, we grab something to eat or go through fast food. We don't think about all the people that are driving all these hours all the time and all these irregular schedules and weather conditions and all that, let alone a big rig to do that. And it's a big deal. And I've met many truckers over my life and some of the industries I've been involved with, and it's all kind of like the same thing. So in a way, I think this movie kind of feels a little familiar to us as guys watching it. And that's not to say women can't watch it too, because to your point that I think was really good, it's not a vehicle that revolves around him. He's got a decent supporting cast, even if they're B and C level guys. But I want to start off by mentioning the guy that I always think we never really talk a lot about, and that's Lawrence Fishburne. He's known obviously for many things. I love he's Shakespearean trained, his voice, he's commanding, he's got presence to him. He's in this movie, so that automatically elevates it. And you and I have talked at length how important casting is to make us like somebody, whether they're a scene stealer or they add to the scene. So to me, even the other people that aren't names that are in here, I think they do a solid job, much better than Blacklight. What did you think about the other actors?
The other actors in this were kind of the girl.
She's spunky.
Yeah, was punky, but she also wasn't like over the top, or she's just like taking out people. She gets clocked in here pretty good
Yep.
by the bad guy, and even though the bad guy is not really like, it's Benjamin Walker. I'm not sure what else he's been in. I'm sure he's been in some other movies. He probably knows. He watches everything. He was pretty good as the bad guy. He's the guy you just want to die, and he keeps coming back. He's just like, at this point, I'm like, somebody shoot him. And that's good, because I love when a villain really triggers you that much. For at least for me, it does.
I'll tell you why he triggered you, because I had mentioned this before in previous streams where we've talked about movies of the decade that we're watching or what's new on Netflix here on Xtreme Movie Show and review that. The guy that you're thinking about here was Abraham Lincoln, and of course one of the greatest movies of all time, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
I know he's recognizable.
Loved. This guy's good. He has a presence to him too, even though he looks almost kind of pretty normally. He's I think he's set apart from that because he's done some great stuff too, but he hasn't had that one breakout monster performance or hit that we go, hey, this guy's got a track record.
That explains it. He's 6'2". I was wondering, like, this guy's pretty freakishly tall, because Liam Neeson's 6'4".
That's right. Liam's no
no Tom Cruise. That's how I was like, man, who is this guy? Like, he's got I recognize the face. I just don't know where he's from. Yes, 2012. Yeah. Abraham Lincoln vampire movie, which is about the best movie you can ever see. If you're a teacher and you're teaching history, let your kids watch that movie. Other actors in here was Matt McCoy. I haven't seen Matt McCoy in anything in a long time.
I haven't seen Matt McCoy since his father, Van McCoy, did The Hustle, but that's lost on you younger people. I'll shut up here.
Matt McCoy was in Police Academy #5.
Oh, no. Police Academy.
I know, right? I'm just trying to think of what else is this guy in, because I guess he's been on Seinfeld. He's been on some TV shows, but I'm like, he was on the assignment Miami Beach and then Police Academy 6. So like he plays Gutenberg. But I know he's been in other stuff too. But I mean, like, wow, this guy, you can tell he's up in age, because like he does not look the same. Let's see. So he was born in 56, so he's up there. Yeah, I guess he's been on TV shows since then. He's been on well, that's where I remember seeing him. He was in Jack Ryan. I think he was in the first season.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right. But yeah, he's in here too. Lawrence Fishburne was in here as well, and I was just like, okay, this is actually like a semi decent cast in here. Holt McCallney's in here too. You remember who Holt is, right?
No.
Oh, really? We just watched the Jason Statham movie, the Guy Ritchie movie,
Which one is he?
Wrath of Man. I mean, he's in there. He was the driver in Wrath of Man. The bad guy, Karen
Oh,
Kogo.
okay.
He's
Okay.
he's in here as well. I
Gotcha.
think he's the guy with the glasses broken in
Okay.
the
All
mine.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, my attention was more on the Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who we've seen her in lots of things too. So you're
yeah.
right. It's a decent crew. As far as the movie goes, let's just be honest. It's basically you got a couple different people that are trying to get supplies, and they're under a time crunch to drive them from point A to point B across this very special destination and all that with the weather getting in. And is the CGI great? It could be better. Let's be honest, but it does do a good job of just whenever you have a movie that like you're in a car and you're traveling something. We've all been on vacations cross country, I imagine. At least a lot of us have, at least a few hundred miles, if not thousand. And so you get that sense that, yeah, we're going somewhere, we're doing something, action is happening, even if they're just talking or plot points developing with it. And of course, things ensue as they get towards the end, and there's a big challenge and a payoff in the third act, which is it's but to me a lot of this movie works with the setup. You've got people, you got
Mhm.
their crews, you meet them, they have their distinct personalities, it's reflected in their rigs. It's much like the movie we talked about, Sunday Blacklight. I said that for me, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was pretty bad. The one redeeming quality was is I thought it looked good, and it happened to be shot, I think, in Australia rather than Vancouver, the second city of
Yeah.
all the cities here in the United States.
Uh,
This one looks decent, and it was actually filmed on location. Like whenever you do that, especially when it's cold outside or the lighting, it just looks different on film, and that is something you can't take away. And it shows, and that's a plus for this movie. Any film that does that, that's a plus. So I think it's a good looking film. I mean, it very easily could be your just average film that comes out in the summer for like a mid
yeah,
late July release.
it came out in I believe in 2021, so last year. But I think that's when I hit Netflix. So
Yep.
it was required that, and they're obviously they're like they if you see it to the end of the credits, there is this movie was dedicated to the memory of Arvinder Graywell. You're probably wondering who that is, guy. That's the guy who was a production designer for The Boys season 2. He did that. He also did he's also production designer for Resident Evil Afterlife. He worked on Land of the Dead, Long Kiss Goodnight, this Survival of the Dead, Jennifer's Body, Antiviral. This guy, basically the guy is behind the scenes. He's did a lot of things. So I was kind of getting interested because I did not know who this person was. Because usually I was telling Rob behind the scenes, when you see a name dedicated, it's usually to a family member or somebody else or one of the cast or crew. But I was like, wow, this guy's actually he's not a nobody. He's actually done a lot of things too. Because we always talk about the actors, but we don't want to talk about production designers. If you're wondering what a production designer is, they're the ones that go to the scenes where they want to they go to the area where they want to film and make sure it's actually set up to what they want in the movie. So, if the guy says this is a crappy area, let's move somewhere else, they move. So in a movie like this, that guy was in charge of making sure where they're filming was actually nice. And actually was the whole scenery throughout this whole movie was really awesome. I love movies that take place in Alaska or around the area because it's just open, untouched by mankind, wilderness.
Yeah, and
And
you happen to live somewhat up near there, not necessarily
yeah,
doing well. Of course,
yeah.
I'm here in Central Florida, so I don't get to appreciate what it's like to have to do something.
You're
If
like,
it
what the
rains
pine
here and
tree?
I'm driving, well, if I'm driving in a thunderstorm in Central Florida in the afternoon and it's 95 degrees out and 40, 50 mile an hour winds, the rain's going sideways, I can handle that because I've done it so much. And a part of me goes, You know, I've only once or twice driven on the side of a mountain or whatever, and it
Yep.
terrifies me, especially when rocks are falling or goats are climbing down. So when I look at people that just drive in even a smattering of snow or ice, oh hell no, I'm not doing that. But I know people do it because they're used to it. So it's whatever your baseline is. And I think a lot of people that listen to us, because you know, they just can appreciate certain parts of this movie. It's not like an all or nothing watch. Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. I think that's a strength to it. And you mentioned before about the casting with this gentleman that had
Hmm.
passed away, the movie was dedicated to. He had been around a while, so the film's going to have a good look to it. It's definitely a strength for it. It doesn't. While it may feel like it's a DVD type release, as you mentioned, I think
Yeah.
that's an interesting point. To me, I still think it's very strong. It's not pure rubbish like they
No,
didn't
no,
care
no.
about it.
It's not.
No.
It's not. You're not. It's not like you're just getting like very, very low budget. But they said like it's not high octane because this guy is known for doing the director for doing the he or he's not he basically wrote for Armageddon. He wrote the story for Thomas Jane Punisher, The Saint with Val Kilmer.
Which is
You
good.
know, this guy's written a lot of stuff over the years, and yeah, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Jumanji. So if you're a fan of those movies, you're probably gonna like this too as well because it actually was pretty well written. Like I said, the bad guy is Abraham Lincoln, uh, and it's got the almost got the '80s kind of feel because that you think you killed the bad guy and then he comes back. That was kind of went into the '90s, and then they kind of stopped doing that in the action movies. You know,
Well, yeah, because you know, guys got sensitive and demeaned even more in the '90s for,
and
and that's something I want to bring up here because when we say it's like an '80s movie, I mean, when you're older and you've grown up during a particular time, it's very easy for certain themes and ideas like that that you grew up on that influenced and inspired you to stick with you no matter what you're hired to do, to direct or to write or to do set pieces for. And so a lot of younger talent that's out there today being involved in movies, their whole world for the most part is CGI based, digital based, not film, not certain tricks that you would learn, the lenses and all the crafting that goes involved with it. It's a little bit easier now to deal with all that or find somebody that can make something look somewhat decent, kind of, sort of, with a filter or whatever. And it just doesn't seem like a lot of younger people today can really capture certain aspects of older films that when people are around like that were worked on this movie, this crew can do. So when you say it's like an '80s film, I think you're right. Not just in the actors, not just the type of movie that is with the trucks and all that, the bad guy coming back, but because of all these people that have worked on it. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of failures lately with a lot of the movies we've talked about where they've tried rebooting something, or they try to make it look like something before. And one of the more current examples of that for me, obviously. It's a movie that's getting ready to get released that just has the lady that was on House that cheated on the comedian guy and Olivia Wilde. She's got something coming out. I'm looking at it going, wow, this looks like Stepford for Wives. And then I watch the trailer and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is Stepford Wives. There's nothing new she's adding to it or doing anything different. So is it going to be better than the original? No. Might it look better? Yeah. But then when we talk about things like Ready Player One, the book or the movie, I think it's just an absolute horrible piece of trash that in no way does anything whatsoever other than spew out a bunch of names of things that were popular in the '80s to some people at certain levels. The guy had absolutely zero clue on how to make that relevant. And Stranger
I
Things
still
kind of
prefer the
touched on
story.
it, but it's definitely gone down. This movie, though, it does it right.
Yeah, and I'll disagree with that there. Ready Player One was a good movie. Was it horrible? Not really. Was it great? No, it's in the middle for me. It still had a somewhat decent story. But it's a lot better than Avatar. I tell you that much. uh, Sorry for those who love Avatar.
No, I don't like Avatar either for certain reasons, even though
Uh,
technologically there's some
but
things to it.
no,
But yeah.
this movie was filmed on Lake Winnipeg, up in Canada. For those of you, your Fozzie fans, your Chris Jericho fans, rock on. No, so it's funny because the lake they're driving on never gets to the point where you'll fall through it. You know, it's the safest road. They've never had any accidents on it at all going across. And it's like when you learn that, it's like, wow, how did they do this stuff? And I would love to see the behind the scenes stuff. I found an article that shows a picture where they have Liam Neeson going into the water to save his brother because he had fell through. Because Liam Neeson's character, being an idiot, wanted to. The truck got stuck in the water, so he was gonna use the winch to reverse it. One problem is that he against his brother's wishes, he told him to shut up, and just yelled at him, and then like the winch broke and knocked his brother into the water along with the trailer. And he goes in there. I'm thinking like the only funny thing is I was like, this is, when it comes straight to DVD movies, like, wow, he pulled his brother out of the icy water and stuff, they go in the truck, but the truck's not running, as far as I know, because I don't hear it running, and because of the music. So I'm like, turn the heater on, man. I should be able to hear the heater that's blowing on him because he's freaking his brother does survive that part. I mean, he's able to get him out. And like I said, it's kind of cool seeing the behind the scenes on this. It's like, oh, that's gotta be freaking cold. I'm thinking because it gets cold here, and then Canada, which is north or towards the North Pole up there, the Arctic.
Whenever I think of Winnipeg, I think of Jackal and the Lumberjack song, which is a really bad thing from back in the day. But just to give Canada some of its credit, besides their people being nice, is that they had, what was it, Black Christmas. We've talked about that a little bit here on the Extreme Movie Show, more around Halloween. They've had David Cronenberg, obviously, Vancouver one is a standard for a lot of things. Ginger snaps, which I'm a big fan of. Canada's definitely got some good things about it too, with the locales.
Yeah, this, like I said, and the action scenes on this is like you got big rigs versus big rigs. You got big rigs out racing and ice breaking on the water. You got guys on freaking what do you call it, on snowmobiles chasing the trucks and stuff like this. They're armed with guns of this, like this feels like Die Hard 2 a little bit in that sense.
Yeah,
the snowmobiles. And it's like, I love any movies that usually have to do with snow, because the dangers of avalanches and all that stuff. And it's just, to me, it's more realistic for me than because that's where I live. So I kind of like, yep, that's kind of that can happen to you. You can go off the road and you can get killed because we have some tall roads over here. You go into the ditch, you're gone. And then plus they're dealing with ice too. I love this. There's a scene in here on the bridge.
Yeah.
Where they're trying, it's a weight of 75,000 pounds. Well, they're trying to get this well cap to put on this pipe to cut off the methane gas so they can blast and get the miners out of there. So they're trying to haul this thing over and they finally get across, and then the truck starts to slide backwards. They're trying to get up. They have to get Gertie has to get out of the rig, put the traction pads down so they can try each one going from side to side so they can get the truck going up. And then it's just and then you see the cable snaps and stuff like that. It's just it just felt like Armageddon in that scene, to me.
It's hard to keep up a sense of ever impending doom without a break in it, and the movies that can do that well, like the Fury Road from a few years back, did a very good job of it. For that to happen, and you don't see movies like it. I mean, obviously a very nice toned down one would be Speed with Keanu Reeves back in the mid 90s. And that was cute and it was nice, but it wasn't dreadful. It wasn't terrifying. No. It was
great,
more gimmicky than anything.
Great action scenes. Story. Yeah. Okay. Oh, not so well, but the action scenes are great. That's what made Speed so great, because it's just like, wow, there's gonna be a lot of destruction in this movie. I want to watch this.
I'll say this, and then I'll hand it over to you for some final thoughts for me. The way I would describe this movie is a lot better than Blacklight. Blacklight's definitely not high on the list that you want to watch, in my opinion. This one's certainly better. Is it a very deep film? Oh God, no. This is, like I say, a very basic, watchable summer afternoon type of popcorn-ish flick that you watch. He's believable at it. Again, he's pretty good at anything that he stars in. It's not taken on ice or whatever. It is what it is, and it's better than some of the crap that's out there today, depending on where your tastes run. But I find myself asking questions during the course of the movie, like, I'm watching a movie about a guy having a truck ride over ice, and it's not supposed to be this engaging, because they do a good job with some of the stuff that you described, because it's not a complete shoot 'em out, bone breaking type movie. It's more of a drama where they're trying to get supplies to a mine where people are going to die because there's a collapse, and the evil subplot that's involved in that, which nobody cares about. They care about getting there, which is the point. So the journey. Yeah,
there's hardly any gunfights in this. There's the girl uses the gun once, and then that same gun is used by Liam Neeson towards the end of the movie, and then he ends up getting like almost like a fist fight with the guy in the ice. Well, while the big rig is running away from him, they're both scrambling to get to the big rig. As they tripping over the ice from each other. It was kind of like, wow, it's just play some Benny Hill music. You're like, it was kind of weird like that. But yeah, it's interesting to see a man who usually has a set of skills not have a set of skills and just be an average guy fighting against Abraham Lincoln on ice.
And if that doesn't sum up this movie, then I don't know what will.
Taken versus Abraham Lincoln.
Taken. My money's on Abraham, by the way. I'm gonna put it out there.
I guarantee if you would have gave him an axe, he would have won.
We're gonna review that movie this year. I promise you.
I thought we already did. I know.
We'll do it again. Just like we're gonna do Commando on Father's Day.
We got to get Pixel for it though.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Ice Road starring Liam Neeson, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, and of course Lawrence Fishburne, who dies because that's what happens to.
Spoilers.
Well, so what? I'm not spoiling it.
But he dies.
Watching, not the.
He dies in a very fashionably awesome way.
Shakespearean to the layperson. To sound big. There you go, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks also to the people listening that did a bunch of retweeting earlier. I know it's a new batch of people, too. I appreciate that as we continue growing here, get close to 1,000 subs on our channel. Again, if you have any particular requests, things you'd like us to analyze and just kind of riff on, let us know. We'll be more than happy to do that. Tuesday nights is the main action channel. Sunday nights live is a bit of a three-way, pun intended, where we do all sorts of different kind of films. And then we're going to be back on our schedule of doing The Prisoner, our current Xtreme TV viewing that we did. So check us out. We've done all of Twin Peaks before that, Haven, and a few others. So Professor Pix and I will be on, I believe it's episode 3 or 4. I believe it's 4 of The Prisoner, Patrick McGowan, one of the best TV shows of all time. We'll catch you guys then. Till then, have a good night. As always, stay extreme.
Keep on trucking.